Throwback Thursday time. Luke Frederickson from Midway Village Museum joins us now. Luke, we're going to talk about the Wild West in the state line, and it's kind of fitting because we lost a great actor who played in a Wild West movie this week.
Yes, he's one of my favorite actors, Val Kilmer. So many great movies he did, but I think my favorite role was when he was Doc Holliday in Tombstone, and that was a great settlers versus the bad guys drama, Hollywood Western. But most people don't realize that Illinois in the 1830s and early 1840s was the western frontier of the U.S., and there were similar types of stories, some bandit activity, outlaws, vigilante justice, right here in the Rock River Valley.
Rough times back then.
Rough times back then, exactly right. So if you remember from a few months ago, we talked about the Black Hawk War of 1832, and that opened up this area of Illinois to settler expansion. But there really wasn't enough settlement to establish, a full legal system. So there was, they organized what were called claim societies, and they were organized so that the first settlers, before the land would be fully for sale and legally bought, they would claim it and they would protect it against claim jumpers and land speculators. So there was a system in place for some sort of settler vigilante justice already, but also this area attracted outlaws and bandits, horse stealers, counterfeiters. In fact, I'm going to read from the governor, Governor Ford. He said, "The northern part of the state was not destitute of the organized bands of rogues engaged in murders, robberies, horse stealing, and in making and passing counterfeit money. These rogues were scattered all over the north of Illinois, but most of them were located in the counties of Ogle, Winnebago, Lee, and DeKalb. And they were so numerous and strong that they could not be convicted of their crimes." So,
well, we used to call them, we probably still call them outlaws, but this is, like you said before, a lot of jurisdictions were established before a lot of laws were written. So what was it like to be in an era where you didn't quite know what the laws were, whether you were breaking any?
Well, you knew the laws, but you didn't have much authority to, other than the law-abiding citizens, they organized into groups called regulators, which kind of sounds familiar from some of the Jesse James type Billy the Kid stories we've heard from the Wild West. But so in 1841, the Driscolls John Driscoll and his 4 sons were the leader of these bandits, and they called themselves the Banditti, like the plural of bandit. I don't know where that term came from, but John Driscoll came here from Ohio with his 4 sons, and they'd already been convicted of other crimes. And they were, some of them and their crew were arrested, taken to the new courthouse in Oregon. Their gang burned the courthouse down to try and burn their evidence and records and get them out. It didn't work because the clerk had already taken the records home. And so they did eventually escape, but these citizens and settlers organized into a group of about 100 regulators. The leader of the regulators owned a grist mill, W.S. Wellington, and they burned that down and killed his horse by breaking his front legs and leaving him to die in agony. And so this guy resigned. Wellington resigned and was replaced by John Campbell. John Driscoll's son William promptly wrote him a letter saying he's going to kill him.
Wow.
And so the regulators marched on the Driscoll house, and they threatened them and they horsewhipped them, and they said, "You have to leave in 20 days." They promised to leave. Of course, they didn't leave. No. They eventually went to John Campbell's house and murdered him in front of his 13-year-old son.
Wow. Unfortunately, we have to leave. Now, this is a great story. Can we talk more about it in the future?
Yes, let's bring the story up
chapter 1.
Next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Luke. Luke Frederickson, Midway Village Museum. Exciting stuff. We'll get more on these bandits and the state line. Stay with us.